make sure we're live on Instagram.
You can hear me pretty good?
Yeah. Yep. Let me see. Last time I messed this up, so let me make sure I get this right. All right, cool. All right, y'all. Looks like a few people popped in already. We'll get started in just a second. Welcome to another episode of Two Lost Office Hours. We'll get started in just a second. I probably have some folks here on YouTube already. Looks like some of your folks tapped in. Let's see. We got K Hard. Let's see. DP Official Music. What's going on, YouTube fam? Like I said, we'll get started in just a second. Gonna let people pop up in here. How you been, man?
I've been good, man. I've been busy as always, but I've been good, man. I ain't got no complaints.
Indeed. All right, well, let's go ahead and get into this. Like I said, it's another episode of Two Lost Office Hours. Today, I have another great guest. We're live every Monday. We have great guests every Monday. So make sure you tap in every Monday at 12 p.m. Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern. Today, my guy JonWoo is in the building, man. How you feeling?
Feeling good, man. I appreciate you having me, man. Love the platform for sure.
No, I appreciate you joining us. Before we get started, I always got to get a win from my guests. So what is something that you feel good about from the past week? A win. It could be something big, it could be something small, it could be more personal related, it could be professional music. But we always like to start off with some positivity. What's something you could celebrate from the past week?
I'll probably say let me see. I just copped some new speakers for my other studio. I think that was a dope thing to do. You know, I got two studios here in Louisville, but
nice. Oh man, we just lost the picture. We'll get them back in just a second. Hopefully it's just a minor technical difficulty.
Yeah, that's my bad. But yeah, I got some new equipment, and I'm a tech guy. I'm a gear junkie, so I'm always excited to get a new piece of something to play with.
Okay. No. So new equipment, that's definitely a win. Actually, before I jump into this as well, I want to let people know about an event that we have going on. So if you're in Philly, DC, Atlanta, or New York, we're starting off in those cities. It's called Game for the Gods. It's myself, Ray Daniels, Nala Simone. We'll be going to come to these cities. It's like a 3-hour event. It's not a conference. There won't be any panels. It'll be more interactive sessions. It'll be gamified. So come out, network, come ready to learn, come ready to participate. This isn't something where you're just going to sit there, hear some people talk and go home. You are actually going to be able to participate if you want to, potentially win some prizes from Mackie. What kind of speakers did you get, JonWoo, in your studio?
We got some focals.
Okay, so we're going to be giving away not speakers, but Mackie has given us some products to give away at this event. Mackie has been gracious and enough to donate some gear to give away. So it's going to be a lot of fun. So make sure you come out. But today, got my guy JonWoo here. As I said, I want to give you a chance to give yourself an intro, just kind of a little background, and then we'll jump into a conversation around not just management. I know you have a lot of experience in the music industry. You've been in the game for a minute. So we'll talk about a lot of different things, but we'll definitely hone in on the relationship that you have with one of your clients, Mar. I'm not sure if you manage anybody else at the moment, but feel free to give us a little background on who you are.
Yeah, man, I'm a 25-year plus person in this music business. I've been doing
25.
25. I started out, as a rapper, wanted to, rap. I got popular in school because I could rap a little bit. And then, in my day, there was no beat stars or nothing like that. It was like you either rapped over instrumentals or you knew somebody who produced. And unfortunately, where I'm from, we didn't have a lot of that. So I learned how to make beats, borrowed $500 from my mama, bought a beat machine, learned that, got really good at that. That became my passion. And then through that, I kind of got to travel around a little bit. It started opening doors for me. And then I moved to New York for a little while, for about 5 years, got to work with some incredible people there, was at a few of the labels. And, a kid coming from a small country town going to those type of sceneries was a big deal for me. And then when I came back home, back to Louisville, probably early 2000s, had a daughter, and that sat me down. that sat me down, had to go get the job, and did my thing there, and ended up managing the kid kind of by accident, really. It wasn't even really trying to be a manager. It was just me trying to make sure that he understood who to stay away from and vice versa.
Mm-hmm.
And the next thing I know, it was kind of like I was always with him. So then it was like, well, you might as well just manage me, bro. And then I ended up doing my first deal with him. And then through that, I worked with other people, got with Mars. We got her signed to RCA. Worked with another young lady by the name of Emma, got her situation. And I've just been rocking ever since, man.
Dope. So since you came up in this game as an artist first, many years ago, juxtapose, juxtapose, juxtapose the experience of what you had to do versus now, and then let me know which era would you rather have pursued music in if you were just like to drop
Uh,
yourself in one of the eras.
I think there's a lot of similarities, right? But I think the one of the biggest thing I always bring up is I often see artists get disgruntled at comments, right? Or they'll be like, man, see what somebody said, whatever. But I try to give them some perspective by sharing them. That doesn't compare to walking up to somebody with a stack of CDs. You
Mm-hmm.
know what I mean? And getting told no, or I ain't got time. You get the I'm good,
Mm-hmm.
man. Don't bother me. Getting told no to your face is a lot different than somebody saying, I don't like this song, or you look corny on YouTube. You know what I mean? It's a
Right.
different thing. So I think that today the marketing is at your fingertips if you just know the right things to do. I think that's changed a lot. And Me personally, let me see. If I didn't know what I know today, I would obviously want to do it back. I would want to be in the older era, but with what I know today and technology and things like that, I would much rather be in this era to do
Yeah.
it because it's so accessible.
Yeah. Nah, I think there's a few people that have said that they would rather, slang CDs and
Mhm.
battle on corners and, do all the showcases and things like that. But I think more people have opted for this era, even though there's a lot of complaints. I mean, there's complaints in every era.
Right, right.
It's just a tough thing to do. Like pursuing music is ridiculously tough. What do you feel like has kept you in it for so long? Like, what do you think are some of is it the passion, the drive? Is it different opportunities? Have you been able to just reinvent yourself? Like, what has kept you in it for so long?
So I think for me, it's definitely because I've been able to evolve. Like I said, I started out as an artist, but I evolved into a producer. Then from producer, I got into management, and then even now I'm more of an A&R now by developing and finding records, linking with people, and connecting dots. And so I think that being able to evolve so much and being able to wear many hats as I see fit, I think is a luxury. And I think that's where I thrive at, and being, like if there's something I need to do, I can go find out. I can figure it out. You know.
Yeah. I think that's a quality that most people have that have been in this game for a minute. Like you definitely have to evolve. Because being a manager back when you were coming up is different than being a manager today. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I would definitely agree. Yeah.
Did you have a manager when you were younger as an artist, or were you
I,
doing it dolo?
He was just doing it dolo. I had, we had the neighborhood guy. We had the guy in the neighborhood like I'm gonna be a manager. We had that guy, but not nobody really connected. So I never really had a manager, so to speak. But uh, so no, I didn't back then.
Mm. So how has your experience as an artist kind of help shape your approach as a manager? Is it helpful to have been an artist first? Do you feel like what are some of the things that help you in your management role?
I think being an artist was a great addition to my skill set as a manager, mostly because a lot of things that obviously today is different from back then, and artists go through different things today. But there's a lot of things that are kind of like the baseline dealings that an artist goes through that I had to go through myself, and I have an understanding for it. Right, it's not so much of a judgment on some things that I kind of understand it, and it helps me deal with artists and the decisions they make in a kind of a different light. Because I've been there, I know what it's like to get a song mixed in the studio and it's not professionally mixed, and then when you get it professionally mixed and the artist is like, I don't like that mix, it's because they got demoitis. I know what that is. I've been there, you know what I mean? Or, even, when we're, moving around doing shows or whatnot and wanting to bring all your friends, and I understand all those dynamics. And then even just on the creative part, I understand records. I think I have a really very, very good ear for music simply because I was an artist at one point, picking out beats, rhyming, recording. I've been through that whole process. So that experience helps out with me having a good perspective on how to work with an artist as a manager, I think.
Yeah, no, I think it would probably earn some immediate trust, or at least trust quicker from a creative standpoint. That's definitely not something that I had when I jumped into this. It was, I don't think I had that trust I don't think I ever got that trust from a creative standpoint, and it was not something that I think I needed, right? Because like when I came in, it was just like, oh, I'm just on the business side, and I kind of accepted that label. However, as you start to get in this and you work with an artist day to day, you're going to that artist show, and you're receiving the comments online, like you start to develop some more skills and experience on the creative side that I think the artists need to pay attention to, because you're the one that's right there every single day. When you're watching Mars's show, you're probably looking at the audience and kind of seeing when they're tapping in, when they're tapping out, like, how they're responding to different parts of the set. So, and you're seeing that night in and night out if you're traveling with her. So your manager starts to get a very unique perspective that, is valuable to the creative process.
Yeah, I agree.
So yeah, so the first artist that so you had an artist before Mars, and you said that just kind of developed because you were around, and then eventually kind of what happened, what was some of the initial kind of growing pains as a manager, some of the things that took a while to get used to in that first partnership?
I'm gonna tell you, so when I discovered this kid, so I was a supervisor at this big company out here, and I remember a friend of mine sent me something and said, "Yo, you should check out this artist. His name is Blasian," and I'm half black and Korean, so for some reason I thought my friend was like being funny, like cracking a joke or something, and so I was like, I disregarded, I was like, whatever. And then somebody else that week hit me up and was like, "Yo, you should check out this kid named Blasian," and this time it was a 12-year-old kid that I mentor. And I was like, well, if he's telling me, I might need to look at this. And so I looked at it, and, I love the music. Ended up finding out his mother was an old friend of mine. She was in the video, and I was like, oh, snap, I ain't seen her in like 20 years. That's a good friend of mine from back in the neighborhood. So we ended up getting together and working. And like I said, it started off as just me telling them, here's what you look out for. But one of the things is just, seeing how seeing how like this generation of, I ain't gonna say this generation, but his generation of artists were like, I wasn't super hip to like the social media game. I mean, I was, but I wasn't, right? I was on my own accord for my stuff, but not with another artist. And that was a learning curve for me. And luckily, the artist that I worked with, the first one, he was very adamant. He was very active on social media. So I got to work with an artist who kind of did it right, and that kind of became my my bar that I kind of use. But even seeing even the way they record it, from the beats that they pick and how picky they can be, I think one of the pain points that I had was working with artists. They'll seem to say they understand, but when everything hits the fan, it's like, I didn't understand that. And it's kind of like, okay, so that's been like a major pain point for me. But so that kind of molds how I do business. But I would probably say that's been like the thing for me.
Yeah, no, I definitely have had an experience where You know, they'll say they understand, but it's only because they don't want to have the like they're trying to get out of that they're trying to get to the next conversation. So like, yeah, I got it. You know,
Yeah,
when they ain't really
but
got it.
but it's that part's always been wild to me because it's like I'm here to help you. You know what I mean? And,
Right.
and if you say that you understand, I'm assuming you're telling me the truth. And
Yeah.
if you don't, when everything hits the fan, it's hard to help you because now I got to clean up a mess, or
Yeah.
when we shouldn't have had it in the first place. So that's kind of been the pain point, or the some of the bumps in the road I've had to deal with, and also just just I think to me, I think a lot of artists today are a little bit more emotional than I've dealt with, which I understand, but taking that into account, it's their whole environment could be uh, detrimental to their success. I've seen artists throw it all away for stuff back home that had nothing to do with their career, and
Yeah.
it's crazy to see that, to me.
Yeah. Yeah. Nah, I think it's you know, I no longer lose sleep over it, but it still is frustrating to see, like, especially artists that have like a ton of potential, like
Yeah,
not reach their potential. Like, you know, that they could, because it's not every artist can make it, you know what I'm saying? But when you see
right.
that one that you think really can get to that next level and something derails them or they derail themselves, you know, it's so frustrating to see that, you know, when they don't reach their potential. Um,
Uh,
there's a few folks that have asked questions in the comments. We're definitely going to get to some questions. So Eric Estevez, I see the question. We'll get to it in a little bit. Let me just ask a few more questions and then we'll jump to questions from the comments. If you are on YouTube, LinkedIn, Twitch, or Twitter, you could just type your questions in the comments and we'll get to them as soon as we can. So how did you come across Mars? How did that relationship start?
So out of working with the first artist, when we was when he got signed, I ended up getting him signed to Cinematic
Okay.
when that Cinematic was here. And during that time, he had a lot of buzz here in Louisville. I mean, he had a lot of momentum, and so I would get DMs quite a bit from other artists that were trying to work. And oftentimes, I try to make a good habit of trying to check everybody out because I remember that those days when I was that guy, and on a side note, one day I'm gonna show my old emails that I used to send labels and stuff, and they're ridiculous, right? It's just crazy how I used to try to thought that this would work by saying this, but anyway, um, but yeah, I got DM'd by her, and she was just saying, "Hey, I'm an artist here. I would love to try to work. I want to be a big artist one day. This and a third." And I just remember checking her out, and I remember for me the thing that sparked my attention was, one, she could sing, right? She has a really good voice. Two, she was a dark skinned young girl who had two braids, and I was like, wow, that's a dope look. And she wore a bandana, and I'm a '90s baby, and R&B and bandanas go hand in hand in the '90s, right? So I was like,
Yeah.
that's a dope look. I love it. And then I was like, yo, did you write that? And she was like, yeah. And her writing is what really set me off because it was exceptionally well. It wasn't like mid. It was very, very good. And
Mhm.
so ended up meeting with her, and she played me all these records that she had, that had never been put out. If you listen to her first EP, she has an EP called Love Letters. That whole EP, minus three songs, was done before the label. Those were songs that she had previously. The big song that she has is called Countless Times. That song was done before the label, and that's the song that took off. But I was listening to the music in her living room with her and her family, and I remember everybody. It's a big couch, a big long U-shaped couch, and I'm sitting all the way in the corner listening to the music, and everybody's just staring at me like trying to see what I think. And in my head, I'm like, my mind is blown because I'm like, I don't even think you guys realize how good this is,
Mhm.
you know. And it was a dope moment. So that's how I met her. We got together. I ended up, changing some things like her name. I was like, yo, you should call yourself Mars and things like that. And then we had a tiny break in.
What was her name before?
Ah, man, it was like something crazy. It was like it was like this super long name, and all I saw in the middle was Mars. I saw
Okay.
Mars. I was
Okay.
like, that's your name. Call yourself Mars.
Uh-huh.
Right. And because MARS is it wasn't available on Instagram, I was like, "Yo, change it to MARZZ," because I was a ZZ Top fan growing up as a kid, and I was like, "That
Okay.
looks cool." I'm thinking marketing like, "Oh, we can do keychains with the Z look like whatever."
Yeah.
So so she changed it, and then she ended up working with another guy, but that turned out to be a bad situation. So I ended up stepping back in, fixing that situation, and then I got her signed over at RCA about 2 months after that.
Got you. And was the when you started working with her, was the approach always to try to get the attention of a label, or were you guys thinking independent route could
It
make sense too?
it was so for me in the beginning. I was like, yeah, let me try to move this around because I just had the. It was like a weird time where I had all the right pieces at the right moment. You know what I mean? And I
Uh-huh.
was like, let me just see. And we put a play together. Ended up taking a meeting with RCA. It was simply supposed to be a meeting,
Hmm.
and that meeting turned into Tunji wanting to sign her on the spot. Tunji and Paul, forget who was over RCA, but it turned into like, hey, we just want to do it. Let's do a deal. Who's your attorney? And then the deal was, for an artist who has no music out, she got a pretty fair deal, so to speak. You know what I mean? I mean, it's some stuff. Obviously, it's not the best deal because it's her first deal, but it was pretty fair.
Got you. Now is she still in that deal, or is she out of that deal?
Right now, she's out of that deal. So she's out of that deal, and we've been moving independently because there's been a lot of changes over there, and so we went ahead and secured a release, pretty
Mhm.
clean release, and RCA was very kind about it. There was no red tape, there was no nothing. It was just okay, yeah, you guys can go, and we don't want anything. You're not gonna hold nothing over your head. You're good to go. So we literally walked away with a nice fan base that money was spent on, and we're free to do whatever we need to do. So so now we got plans to move forward and do things independently with the right team and the right budgets and right intentions. So
Dope. So overall, you felt like your experience with RCA was a positive one. Is there anything that you guys felt like you guys could have done different to squeeze more out of that situation?
yeah, I think in the be I think I always tell people to keep in mind that she went from she went from being at home one day in the projects, or not necessarily projects, but she was one day at home in a low income apartment to next thing you know, you sign to a major label with a ridiculous amount of money in your account, right? So a lot of things she didn't have to experience those growing pains of trying to make it and learning those lessons along the way. She had to learn on why she was signed, which can be troublesome to some degree, right? So
Yeah.
but we both learned, and we bumped our head a couple times. Um, and there might have been a disagreement or two with RSA, but nothing ever, majorly bad. But I think early on we didn't really get the content side of things. We did, but we didn't. And understanding how consistent we have to be and how we have to treat that as a job and not as a plaything and something we do when we feel like it or when we got a song out.
Mhm.
We understand that it's a tool and we have to utilize that tool even when we're not doing anything. It still has to be used to
Mm.
continue to build what we're trying to build because, and that was a lesson we had to learn through that situation for sure.
Yeah. Nah, it's something I think all content creators, that's the challenge. Like how do you keep consistent engagement? How do you continue to tell your story? And for artists, like even when you're not on an album cycle, if you're still doing albums, like when you're not actually putting out music, you still have to engage the
Yeah.
audience. Because ultimately it's like, how can we get more people to like you? Because when you do put out music, your music's going to sound better to people that like you. So if you have people
Right.
that like you, your music's going to sound better, and it's going to be easier to get them tapped in. So like, how did things change like over the years? Is she now more active? Is she still
Yeah.
resistant? Like, how does the social media usage?
Um, no, she's definitely no, I mean, she's killing it. Like, she's very active. She kind of really understood the social media game. And like, she's probably the best version of her
Mm,
now. You know what I
dope.
mean? Because she kind of understands that game now, and she understands, like, how can I say it? I can't. I think a lot of times when I talk to artists, I'm like, this is the game you're playing. Like, you got to understand that. And I think she wakes up every day knowing that now. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
so yeah, it's definitely benefited, and she's in a great situation because sometimes think when you leave a label, you think it's bad, but it's really not because we left free and clear, and we left with an amazing fan base that's still intact to this day.
Yeah.
So
So how has your relationship evolved over the years? Because like one of the things I know for sure is like when you first start working with an artist, it's sometimes, and I'm not saying this is the case for you guys, but I've seen this and I've experienced this. Like when you first start working with an artist, like it's easy to get them to do things, they're tapped in. But then like over time, the relate you guys might get so close, or you guys might have had a few dust ups here and there. Like it's harder. Like if you say post something in the beginning, she'll post it right away. But like a few years down the road, it's like, hey, I need you to do that. And it takes, a little longer. And because I seen her post something where she still has so much respect for you. It was like a podcast or something.
yeah,
Like she still has a lot of respect. And it seems like the relationship is still tight. But how has your relationship evolved over time, and how is it now?
our relationship is great, and I think that over time, we've gotten closer. I think in terms of working together. Well, I'll tell you this: we've always been tight, but we've gotten close over the years. But what's dope is that our business relationship has gotten tighter, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
She's the good thing about her is that sometimes I've dealt with artists where it's great in the beginning, then it starts to go bad. With her, even if we hit bumps in the road, it gets better.
Mm.
You know what I mean? And I like that because it's not a thing where something bad happens and then everybody goes their separate ways. And she doesn't learn the lesson and I don't learn a lesson. And it ain't that. It's more so, all right, we bumped our heads. We may disagree on something, but all right, we know how to handle this the next time. Let's approach it even better now. You know
Mm-hmm.
what I mean? And it always gets better. So, we're really tight. I love her like a sister. She is like a little sister to me. And that sometimes can be stressful because, like you said, it's easier for her to tell me no. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? It's very easy to tell somebody and somebody said this to me, and I was like, man, I never looked at it like that. They said, why sometimes people will hit you below the, like a person that you might love and care for, they'll hit you. Not saying she hit me below the belt. I'm just saying in general, like her telling me no to something, it's easy for her because she knows I love her.
Mm.
She knows, you ain't going nowhere. You my dog, so I don't want to do that today. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? It's kind of some version of that. So when you get too close, that can happen, right? So I've had to, like I said, our business understanding has gotten better to where she understands, like, not only am I like your big brother and I love you to death, but I'm also your manager, and the things that I bring to the table or say are very important to take heed to because we're in a
Yeah.
business, you
Yeah.
know.
No, she had mentioned that she believes that you have her best interest at heart, and I think that that's crucial. For an artist to understand that, so that they can receive feedback the right way,
Right,
and that you can deliver feedback and she's receptive to it. I think that's so important. That communication, that dynamic is so important to have in an artist manager relationship. And if you lose that, it's a very tough thing to continue to have that partnership.
right.
So so she's fairly open to feedback that you give still.
Yeah, all the time. Like that's one thing I love about her is that she'll whatever whatever feedback I have, she's all ears for it, and that doesn't mean we agree on everything either, you know what I mean? But
Right.
she will hear me out, and she'll, if we gotta drag it out and argue over it, we can do that, but she's always open to information and to how people think of things for her. So
Oh, so what's next? So now you're out of this situation. Are you looking for a new situation? Are you looking to just kind of build this out independently until something of interest just happens to come by, or aggressively seeking something else? What's the plan
no,
for this?
I think today in 2024 is like one of the best times for artists to do this music thing. If you just know what to do correctly and not not think and not suffer from what is it? The Dunning-Kruger effect. Have you ever heard of that?
I haven't.
So the Dunning-Kruger effect is when somebody knows a little bit of information, but they think they know it all. You know,
Okay.
and so it's like, and I think I think artists suffer from that. But I do think,
The whole world is suffering from that right
yeah,
now.
yeah,
Everybody on the
sure.
internet is suffering from that.
Man, and it's rampant, and it's like, yeah. So but I think today is like the best time for an independent artist to get music out, to understand what to do, make the content, build an audience one by one if you have to.
Mhm.
Use all the tools that are out there in abundance for you to get things done. And then, so with her, it's just we're gonna ride this independent wave. I actually do have a partnership with Even Biz that we're gonna be doing to monetize that pre-save, and then use that platform to see what's performing well. And then by the top of the year, I want to start releasing singles based off the data of that. And then, shoot some videos. We're going to put her on a small little tour, and then we're going to circle that back around. I got some other business opportunities that, we're going to parlay that into for like February, March, and then hopefully, if it makes sense, we'll get a situation. But I just want to build that leverage so that way she gets the right opportunity for herself.
Yeah, no, that's dope. Shout out to Even. I think we just did a deal with them where they're going to be integrated into Two Lost in
Yeah.
some way, shape, or form. But yeah, shout out to Even. Looks like we lost you again. I'm not sure if it's because you're getting a phone call. Are you there? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. My bad. I'm sorry.
Okay, no, that's all good. I want to go back up because there was a question here that I think you might have some good advice on. Eric Estevez asked, it's not popping up. Here we go. I manage my artist and daughter, uh, Angelise Mariah. What advice would you give me to help overcome the two different dynamics of our relationship? Have
Wow,
any
that's
advice
a
there?
huh.
Do you have any advice for Eric?
Yeah, I think those are really tricky to deal with, because it's your kid, it's like your daughter. So, um, me personally, I think early on, you ever hear like not well, Dave Chappelle said you gotta name your price early. He was just saying like set your standards, let up front. You know what I mean? I think in these situations, I think the healthiest thing to do is one, just kind of create those boundaries in terms of what's business and what's not, you
Mm-hmm.
know, and because I think that line can get blurred. I mean, sometimes it gets blurred with Mia Mars, and she's not my daughter. You see what I'm saying? So I can only imagine if it was my daughter, and just really treat it as a business. And I think the artist or your daughter just has to really have that understanding that this part is business. So when we're doing this, we're putting on our business caps. We're handling business, and I think that will help. Or just simply bringing in somebody who can kind of fulfill that role a little bit in between.
Yeah.
Uh, I think that helps too. I've actually done that before, and that's actually helped out quite a bit.
Yeah.
So
My suggestion would be, and Eric, this is me assuming that you haven't been a manager for a long time. I would just make sure that you're learning as much as you can about the music business so that your role as a manager is not just because you're her father, but it's because you are committed to becoming the best manager possible. And hopefully through that process, you will learn how to do what John just said in terms of separating the two, right? Because I think in the immediacy of this, your passion might be driven because you're her father, as opposed to like really understanding the business and like wanting to be the best manager possible.
yeah,
You might just want to be the best father possible, and you might want to step into that manager role because you're a protective father, and that's ultimately what's driving the desire to be a manager. But you really have to be a manager in order to be the best person for your daughter in that role. Uh,
yeah,
so I made
and
a
I, and
lot of assumptions there. So if some of those assumptions don't apply, I apologize, but that's my spiel. What were you about to say? My
yeah,
bad.
no, I was gonna say I definitely agree with learning the business, because I think sometimes when you don't know, that line gets blurred very easily because you really don't know, and I've dealt with momagers and, things like that. And it's not because they're bad business people. They're just they want to protect their children.
Yeah.
And sometimes they don't know that. And I respect that because I'm a father too, but sometimes they don't understand like there's business to be done and there's a certain way it needs to get done. But because you want to be protective and you're in that role, you kind of can get in the way a little bit.
Yeah,
So if you don't understand.
it could definitely mess up the business for sure.
Mhm.
Cool. We got another question. What are the key skills and knowledge areas that have been most important to your success as an manager, and how did you develop them?
So one of the key contributors to me being able to kind of get where I've gotten was I think early on I understood something was said to me a long time ago. Hey, to be a good manager, you got to be an even better middleman. And I kind of where the way I grew up in my reputation where I'm from, I kind of was like a big middleman to a lot of situations where, I was the guy where if there's a big brawl in the cafeteria, everybody's cool with me. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? So even in the music scene, I always knew who the producers were. I always knew who the graphic guys were. I always knew what studios you should go to, who did the best business, who did bad business. So a lot of people would come to me because I could facilitate. I could point you in the right direction, and you took my word for it because there's a lot of work been put in on my end. So it's kind of like a shortcut coming through me. So I think one of the qualities of a good manager is being able to get situations or opportunities for artists who normally wouldn't be able to get them on their own, and also making sure that they're of quality. So, for example, if you have an artist you're working with and they need a studio, you got to get on that phone. You got to find the right studios. You got to go dig that information up for yourself, and then take it back to the artist and say, "Here's the plan." So you got to really be a person that can connect some dots and connect right dots that are fruitful and not just a waste of time. I think so for me, that's what it was. And I was always that guy in school, and that just carried over into the music business. I just knew how to connect people.
Yeah. Now the relationships are crucial. There's a lot of people pushing a lot of things in this industry, and to have somebody that can kind of steer you away from kind of the wrong folks and connect you with the right folks,
Yeah.
that's crucial. But what, middleman is typically received, like that word has become like a negative word. Like most people hear, when
Yeah.
they hear middleman, they're like, oh, that's just somebody in the middle that shouldn't exist and it's taking a cut of something. You
Mhm.
don't need a middle. But I, like you, I think the middle, you could, like, a middleman can be worthless and they could be taking a percentage of nothing, of something that they shouldn't be taking a percentage of, or that middleman could be an extremely crucial piece that if you take out, the whole infrastructure just comes crumbling down, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I mean, yeah, no, I think so like I think one of the things I want to add to that is that I'm really good with finding mentors too. I think that's always been crucial to my development as a manager, right? So because I'm very aware that I don't know a lot of stuff. I'm very aware of that and upfront about that. So I've surrounded myself around people who are in the business and who have great reputations and knows, for like for example, like a Wendy Day. She's like my aunt. And just learning from people like that and asking questions on situations that I'm in and getting advice and then playing up doing them and seeing how they turn out has been beneficial. Mentorship is the thing too. But my reputation was always the reason I always use the word middleman is because my reputation was so strong. If I told you that there was a studio behind that dumpster over there that's really dope, and you should go there and you should go look. A person will go look. They're like, "Well, Woo's really 100. Like he's solid. Like his word is good. You know what I mean?" And I've protected that my whole life because I
Mhm.
understand how valuable that is. So when I say middleman, it was a thing where everybody. I had a lot of trust in my city. Let me just put it to you like that. So you come to me, hey Woo, who can you hook me up as a videographer? All right, go see my guy Flo. I'm gonna call Flo, hook this guy up, help him out, maybe give him a little discount. All right, bet. Because you said it, big bro, I'm gonna do it. So I
Yeah.
was that guy, you know what I mean? So yeah.
Nah, crucial to have folks like you in the community for sure. Let's see. Turn asked, what's more important, viral moments or consistency? in
Oh
your
yeah, shout out to my boy Tyron. Hey, he's out here killing it too, Dame. I'm really proud of him. He's one of those artists that are like what we look for.
dope?
But what's more important, viral moments or definitely consistency. Like
Mhm.
man, consistency. I'm gonna tell you what's crazy. I help out these guys. I work with these guys called the Young Prodigies. It's part of a nonprofit called HHN2L here in Louisville. They recently had a clip of a post that kind of went semi-viral, pretty viral. And it literally was a post because I handle their social media. It literally was a post that I was like, oh shoot, it's 8 p.m. I didn't post anything on there for them today. Let me just post real quick. I didn't even really care what it was, right? It was
Mhm.
just it's a clip of them doing this, and that happened to go viral. And it wasn't the best quality or anything, but that consistency was responsible for that. Because I could have easily said, I'll do it tomorrow, but I was like, no, I gotta stick with it, and that paid off. And even with like Tyrant, for example, he's been real consistent in building up a foundation of music and content online for people to discover. And he recently has something that kind of blew up, and I think it matters because that consistency of building that, when people discover him, they can see.
Need you back. Is that I'm assuming that's happening every time you get a phone call? Is that what's happening?
What, let me throw this on. What? Do not disturb. Hold on. How do you do that?
Oh, good.
But yeah, that consistency is very, to me, is the most important thing. Consistency, because
Yeah.
it's, to me, it's all about how many shots you shoot. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I would agree 100%. Because you can't like chasing virality is like, you on a hamster wheel. You never know, when you're going to get a viral moment. But if you're consistent, just like Wu said, like, the viral moments will come when you least expect it. You just got to keep at it. So virality won't lead to consistency, but I think consistency, as long as you're improving your quality over time, will eventually lead. I don't know about virality, but definitely more success on
I
socials.
I think one of the things that is important about consistency, what I've learned is like a lot of in the beginning, even when I worked with RCA, and they was like, okay, here's the first release. Here's what we need you to do as a manager. Here, they gave me a whole list of things to do. But by doing it so much, in the beginning, I'm like, man, this is a lot, and I don't. But after you do it so many times, you start realizing that it's really not a lot. Because you start to understand how things work or whatnot. So even with posting content, and I hear artists complain about that all the time. But if it's a thing where you get into a motion of doing it, it doesn't become as tiring, I think, because you kind of know what to do. It becomes quicker. You like, get this content, I'm gonna post it here. I kind of know how to do my captions. It just becomes easier, less to think about. But that all comes with consistency, I believe.
So when you were working with RCA, they gave you as the manager like a task list of things to do. I've never heard
Yeah.
of anything like that, but that's kind of dope. So what all did that entail?
So one of the things is like, let's say if a record comes out, they'll send me all the banners, they'll send me all the smart links. They'll say, hey, get these uploaded to all the platforms, change out all the banners, and make sure that y'all are scheduling these posts. Or let's just say if she has, even if it's like doing drops or just some simple stuff like doing drops for radio or for, DSPs and things like that. They would give me the list of what needs to be accomplished, and I have to make sure she gets to the studio and make sure it gets done. It has to be of a certain quality, you know. Or even when we're, just simple manager things like if we're at a video shoot, they're making sure that I'm making sure everybody's there on time, and Mars is where she needs to be. I'm approving things, So they gave me like a lot of different jobs to do that I think were my job, but they would always make sure I had a hand in those things, which I think was pretty dope.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think this speaks to, and I don't think artists understand this, but don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to take away from the artist. Obviously, the reason you're in that room is because they're interested in the artist and the artist's music, but they're also checking out the artist team and saying, okay, we gotta work with these folks. So we love the artist, but is the team gonna be difficult to work with? Are they going to be absent? Like, they're also evaluating the team. Is that kind of They probably
Yeah,
felt confidence in you to give you this list of like, oh, he's solid. We could give him this list of things, and he can help out, from that perspective.
no, man, 1,000%. Because I know that if they don't, well, I'm gonna just speak from experience. This management team was a two-man show at one point,
Mm.
right? And it got to a point where it had to become a one-man show because somebody was just dropping the ball everywhere, and it became a thing where it was like, hey, listen, we like you, particularly like this guy.
Yeah.
So you might want to make a decision because we can just put our money and resources into something else. And it's like, people, your team is very important and vital because and the etiquette of your team and the punctuality, or people being on time and just doing business good is very important because whatever they do and drop the balls is staying on you too as an artist, and they're gonna attribute that to you, and they can stop working with you simply because your team isn't right. There was a
Yep.
video shoot we did one time, right? We was doing 2 video shoots in a weekend, and just to show you how important it is, we was doing two video shoots in a weekend. I was there at the shoot, and I'm excited because I'm like, man, we really out here doing this and this and the third. The two songs they have similar names, so if I can make this make sense, the one video we shot the wrong visuals to the we shot visuals to the wrong song,
Okay.
right? And
Okay.
so while this is going on, I'm at the video shoot. I'm drinking my coffee. I'm sitting in the director chair. I'm living my best manager life, right? And then I remember the next day when all of this was kind of found out, they was like, "Hey, we need to have a conversation with you."
Hmm.
They was like, I don't know if you know how much money we spent. We saved the video. We was able to fix it, but it was like, there's a lot of money involved and a lot at stake involved. And your job is to be there to make sure everything is on point. So we get it, you there, you having a ball, but you really should be there. Let me see the itinerary for the day. What video we shooting? What scene are we on? Where does Mars need? I have to be on point. And I had dropped the ball on that, and I could have cost us a lot of money that
Mm.
fortunately would have been a bad stain on me, but luckily we caught it in time, and I promise you I've never made that mistake again. you know
That's that's hilarious. At least you were able to salvage it. Uh,
yeah.
no, but nah, the team is so crucial. I think a lot of artists get to a point where they think they can just plug any person into these particular roles, but
Mm-mm.
it's just the car doesn't continue to drive as well.
No,
Uh,
I think the biggest thing, the biggest problem that I think is with that is to me, and you could agree if you think I'm right, but the music business seems to be the only business that you can wake up and be a professional tomorrow without any consequences. And I often say, like, I can't go into a hospital today. I can't go into U of L hospital and say, hey, I'm here to do brain surgery and not get arrested or kicked out or thrown out, right? There's a consequence to that, right? But music, you could wake up and be the greatest rapper you want to be tomorrow,
yeah,
and nobody's there to stop you. And I think that causes a lot of problems too.
yeah. Nah, that's real. I mean, there's no certification, there's no certain level, certain years of education. Anybody can say, that they're in the music industry. Anybody can claim that they're a manager or an artist or,
Yeah.
so you're right, 100%. Let's answer a couple more questions before we get up out of here.
All right.
We'll do this one, and then after Hill, we got you next. What's the best way to solicit an artist to an artist development company or a label?
You so I know what I do, and it's in like when I find artists that I want to work with, I usually go and look and kind of get an idea of like what needs to be fixed, and I usually approach with that because instead of, it's kind of like I usually approach with that and say, hey, look, just took a look at everything, and these there's a few things areas that could be fixed, and here's why they benefit you if you get them fixed correctly. Um, and then usually when it's kind of like I'm a person of service, so usually when I come with something on the plate already and here I want to give you this, you know what I mean, I think it makes the conversation even better for doing business and maybe partnering and things like that. I think so. That's always been my approach. I usually go and find things that I can help with first,
Mm-hmm.
And I lead with that.
Yeah. Yo, I used to be that guy. I used to offer advice that wasn't asked for until
Right.
until an artist let me know that he didn't ask for it. I was like,
Wow.
I
How,
I'm I said,
how was that?
what'd you say?
How was that? Like,
I was in my mind, I was like, look, bro, I'm never offering advice ever again that was
wow.
unsolicited. So yeah, I think a lot of artists are that way these days. They got it, they got everything under control, and I think it's even worse when the artist has some traction, right? Because
Mm,
now it becomes harder to listen because you feel like you're winning.
right.
Now you could be like winning, if you did change a few things, but it's like, nah, I ain't listening to nobody, man. I'm already doing my thing. So it's like, all right, you got it. I just kind of stay in my lane and ask these questions to folks like you on these office hours now. I ain't stepping out. All right, cool. Let's see. After Hill, we got you. What's the key to scaling up your operation as an artist?
I think one of the to me the big one of the biggest keys is really understanding the platforms you exist on. Like I've always been taught that we're not really in the music business, we're more so in the tech business, and you got to really understand the platforms. And I think a lot of artists fail to do that. For example, like one thing I like to ask a lot of artists all the time is like, what in your opinion, what's the best content discovery platform, and what's the worst in your opinion, and based off of like the Pew report from 2023 in December, YouTube is by far the biggest platform. Then there's TikTok, Snapchat, and then there's Instagram. And what I try to explain to artists is like, yo, if you know that data, then turn around and ask yourself, how many artists do you know have promoted on Instagram the last 30 days? They'll say a lot. I know artists. Ask yourself how many of those same artists have promoted on YouTube, and they'll be like, none. And I'm like, isn't that bizarre that you'll post on the site that's in last place, kind of, and not the one that's in first place? So I think that understanding of platforms and information is very key. Understanding how to build an audience is key. uh, and I think like just kind of optimizing all of the places where your music is at, because I think a lot of artists might, you'll be on YouTube but you don't have an OAC, you don't have any links in bios, you don't have any descriptions, you don't have any, your title on your YouTube video is not entered correctly. So I think those things are detrimental to an artist scaling, their operation, is just by kind of reorganizing and cleaning up things and making sure everything's efficient. I think that's a major key, and just learning that information so you can do it correctly.
Yeah. And I guess if I can add something is like, I think it's real important for you to kind of have a system or an infrastructure for how you move, right? So you might say, okay, I want to drop a song every week, or I want to drop a song every month. I feel like you should have kind of a system for what you're doing on a day-to-day basis in order to get that song out. What that content look like, leading up to the day of the drop and then after the drop. You should have a system so that you're not always like waking up every day, figure out what am I doing today. It's like, no, you
Right.
already organized. You kind of have the system for how you're releasing things. Once you get out 6, 7 songs, you could take a look back at your system. Be, okay, I need to add this, I need to change this. But you should have some type of system or infrastructure in terms of how you move that's consistent, so that you know what you're doing on a day-to-day basis and you're being efficient with your time. And then you're just making smaller adjustments over time. Uh,
Yeah.
Go
One
ahead.
one one little small thing to add to that, what you said, because you're 1,000% right. I never knew how much a spreadsheet would make my life easier. Like it blew my mind how much easier it made me when I put all the our artist accounts information on this spreadsheet, which
Mhm.
like simply just knowing which platforms I need to change banners out. Right? I mean, I already know, but when I have to think about it, it's like but when
Yeah,
I can just put the spreadsheet and click that one, I'll do this one next. It makes life so much easier. So that organization and having a plan is crucial.
yeah. Nah, and so I that is what I had like down pat coming into this, because I came from the corporate world where it was all about like spreadsheets and PowerPoint presentations and the whole nine. So that piece I was well equipped for. Some of the other stuff, some of the the stuff that you probably came well equipped for in terms of like understanding kind of how artists are and just how much patience to have. Like that's the piece that I had to develop over time. So let me see. Clyde Cyrus asks, is there a formal process to be added to being added to New Music Friday? So I guess in order to increase your chances to get added to any playlist, making sure that your music is uploaded at least 3 weeks in advance. You can pitch it through Spotify for artists. But ultimately, the artists that I really see winning aren't really relying on any playlist. They are building their community of fans, and they're relying on that community of fans to consistently stream their music on a day-to-day, week-to-week basis. And then when that starts to happen, the playlists start to come. It's not playlists and then I get fans. It's fans and then you get playlists. I'm not saying that it always happens that way, but that's what I've seen more often than not. And if I was an artist, would put more focus on building the community. I would still do what I could to pitch and make sure that my music was, solid, make sure I'm putting out music consistently and I'm uploading 3 weeks in advance and pitching, through the Spotify for artists, or if you're using Two Lost, using our pitching tool, things like that. But yeah, I would put more focus on, building out the fans in the community, and then that leads to playlists. But right. I don't know what you would say in regards to this.
No, I agree. I think, just for me, my personal opinion is playlisting is cool, but to me, it's always been some sort of a passive stream in a sense, because it's somewhere where people are already going to be at. They're not necessarily there for you, so I don't count on that. And I do think building an audience is way more important, because once you get a person to become a fan, those people kind of stick with you. So I think building an audience is way more important and way more key. And like you said, the playlist will come once you build it out. So I think I agree 100%.
Oh, my bad. Clyde said he's referring to Two Lost personal page, but then he also said he's doing distribution through Black's label. Why would Two Lost post your music on the Two Lost page if you're using a totally different distribution company? When we post the stuff we post on our social media accounts, on the Two Lost social media accounts, that's everybody that you see uses Two Lost as their distributor. So if you use Two Lost and you have a dope release that's coming out, I don't know how I think we sort that out internally, but it wouldn't hurt to DM us and let us know that you have a release coming. I don't think that would hurt. But yeah, I don't think Black's label distributes through us, so that's probably why we won't post your New Music Friday.
Understandably, of course.
Cool. All right, we're running up. What did we miss anything that you feel like we should address in this last minute or two?
No, I if anything, I think if an artist is listening, man, get out there and build a community. I think you should really educate yourself on how to build an audience and how the music business works. And I say that generally, but there's so much information, man. I mean, there's really kind of no excuse in my opinion for me. Look up the information, educate yourself, and find some good mentors. And do your thing, man. And also, just real quick before we get off, I want to say to you too, man, I appreciate you having me on. And I've always been a fan. You was one of the first people that I ever came across that would give real, what I think, unbiased opinions about music business. And you wasn't, even if everybody in the world believes something that this artist said, you was one of the few people that would be like, well, no, let's take a look at it. Is that really accurate? And I always love that about you, man. So,
nah, I appreciate that feedback, man. And I just speak from experience, and not only my own experience, right? Like at this point, you got 25 years in the game. I started in 2008. So we have a lot of experience, which we're not just, and we've interacted and we've networked with a lot of people. We've seen a lot of people come and go. We've seen a lot of people be successful. So we're not just drawing on our own experience at this point, and we're still in it. We've seen the changes, and we're still in it. And I'm seeing artists, come through the office daily, talking to artists on the Independent Living podcast. I really do think that we've earned a voice, and for folks that want to pay attention. Because sometimes I feel like, sometimes I ask myself, like, if I was to start all over and like somebody told me what all it would take to get to where we got, would I do it again? And I don't know if I would say yes to that. So sometimes it is maybe a bad thing to have all the information, but you should definitely be equipped with most of the information.
Right.
But now I appreciate you, bro. Where can people find you? Where are you at most on socials these days?
Mostly Instagram. You can find me at JonWoo Got Beats. I don't have beats, but that's where to find me. JonWO. Yeah.
So you're not producing anymore?
Nah, man, it's just an old handle. I just never got changed, man. But yeah,
I'm sure you get asked for beats all the time just because of that handle. Like, yo, where the beats at?
What's that again?
I'm sure you get asked that all the time. Like, yo,
all the time, man. Every time and it's so much to the point where people think I'm lying. They're like, nah, I don't believe you. But I really don't, man. And it's funny because I got 2 studios and I have all the beat making equipment in my studios, and I'm not gonna say I don't make beats, but it's not like that.
So. Got you. All right, y'all. Hey, stick around for a sec. Let's catch up right after this. But this has been another episode of Two Lost Office Hours, another dope episode. Next week, I got my guy Chuck Dizzle joining us, co-founder of Homegrown Radio here in LA. It's going to be another great discussion. I'm looking forward to that one as well. Lock in some wins this week, y'all. Lock in some wins and share them with us for Share Your Wins Wednesday when we make that post on Wednesday. Until next week, I'll see y'all. Peace. Let me stop this. We're putting together. Can you hear me still?
Yeah, I can still hear you. Yeah, I'm just
Your phone blowing up. So we are doing an R&B compilation right now. I don't know if Mars has a record. Maybe she just has something that she wants to put on it, or if she wants to make something new, she's more than welcome to. The list of artists, I know that she's collaborated with hold on, let me answer this real fast. Give me 1 second.
Okay, I guess.